Good morning, peeps. Now, I've had a few people ask me about the gear I use and what I take with me when I go fishing. I've shown you how to keep your brolly safe. I've shown you how to load a trolley. So this time I'm going to show you the gear I've got in my bags I take with me, alright? So with the power of editing, if I do this, I'll try and keep some of the noise away because there's a building site just the other side of my oak tree there. Right, so in the power of editing, I'll show you right from this point to the next point. Right, peeps, I'm going to set my box up in the fishing situation and show you that. That's my bait, and that's where I get everything from. Right, I've got things set out, ready to show you. It's all set out here in the lovely sunshine. Just hope those machines aren't too noisy for you. Right, let's start setting stuff up. Right, this is the first hold all. As you can see, it's got my brolly in it. I've got two feeder rests, or one I use for my pole top kits and one I use for the feeder rest. Right, and here's a very important part, the tripod. I'll show you that setup as well and how I set up my cameras. All right, let's get right into it. Catch you in a few seconds. Right, first things first, that's a pellet mixing bowl which I use for mixing up ground bait, only small amounts. It's my drop bucket where you see it once that fish that Ston and Barnes fell into. Have that for wiping your hands, washing your hands. Right, in here we've got the legs for the tray, which I'll show you in a second. I've got 3 landing nets. One is the super light, and as you know, my matrix tackle tart, that's the super light. The carp rubber net, and the carp that just says carp landing net, but that's a much bigger one. Then I've got a keep net in here, which I very rarely use because most of our waters you're not allowed to use them. That's the small tray. I'll show you in a second. I put all my camera gear on and perhaps my snack box and my cup of tea. And there's the big tray. I have to keep reaching up to turn it on and off because I haven't got a remote control for this camera. Right, underneath the seat and tray I've got my bait box. Let's put that down here out of the way. It's my feeder tray with all my swim feeders in and all my method feeders, my bait up feeders, that's the big one there, and cage feeders. And in this side, when you turn it over, it's got some more feeders in. You've got to have a selection of stuff, otherwise, you know, you get there and say, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. Just take it all with you. That's what I find easiest. All right, that'll do for that bit. I'll edit this bit out. Then the other part of the seat I forgot to tell you about is this bit here with all my gizmos in it, my stopwatch, some more pole floats here, my stots, the new matrix stots, or they call them the cube shot. Right, pliers and all sorts, and forceps, my level that I put under my seat so I can get myself nice and level. So I close that. Now I'll do another piece which I meant to show you as well. It's under here. I've got a new pole tray. That's my cold weather hat, my tackle tart hat. I've got pellet wagglers in there spare, some for you, Don. And I've got all the new pole floats I've set up in here. I've got some matrix ones now as well, the new ones. I've got the new fish floats as well, and some Mark Pollard and some ordinaries in there. And I've even got one of these floats in here. You never know. It's always best to have it with you. If you've got it, you can use it. If you leave it at home, you can't use it. Whoops. That's how it goes in there. Right, let me show you how I set my cameras up. When you see me fishing, this is how it's set up. It's on the gripper, and you can bend that to where you want. If you want to take some shots of when you're doing some bait shots of loading your feeder, and then you just stretch it up again, and then you catch me in the side here and plenty out there so you can see what I'm doing. Now, the most important thing, I always hear some people say, oh, sorry about that, my battery ran out. I use one of these. It's not a sales ploy, I'm not sponsored by them. It's a char mast, as you can see. I plug this in, and it's plugged in the back of the camera. I'll get it in the right shot for you. And it's plugged in the camera. and it goes all day like that. I never switch the camera off. Once I'm fishing, that's turned on. Then I use a remote control to start filming and stop filming, blah blah, because you see me ropes down, and that's how it works. So I never change a battery. I don't have to stop and say, blast, the battery ran out. It tells you the charge on the screen. Anyway, that's enough of the cameras. This is the Hero 10, this one here, that's the Hero 8. Right, and that's how it's set up. Right, this is the first tackle box. Obviously the pole sock, which I go on here. And then I attach it to one of the legs. This is for the other camera I use, which I shall show you in a bit. That's to put my top kits on. Feeder rest. Chest camera mount. There's some other stuff in here which that's my, when I'm feeder fishing, I stick my rods in that holds 3 rods, so you can have your bait up feeder and your 2 feeder rods on the side of your tray. I can set them up for you as well. Some ground bait I used the other day. Got some other bits and bobs in there, spare catapults, feeder rests. I've even got a tube full of all sorts of floats, depending on where I'm fishing at the time. That's 2 different feeder rests. Extra pole. There's a rod clip. I've got other rests and stuff in here. Another spare catapult, some pins I have in here. If I put my brolly up and want to pin it down if that's windy. And then this one I got some pole floats in here. These are pretty heavy floats. That's in case the weather is rough and that's, say like you got a little chop on, you see these are a lot bigger floats for that. They're in a hard case. They're in there. Right, and in the bait box I've got all sorts of different sorts of fuka bait in there. Right, oh, I've got some more sensate in there. Ooh, lovely. So I've got all different wafters and pop-ups and the lure baits you see me use the other day. Right, now in here how I pack it is, that's all my feeder hooks in that one, and method feeder hooks in that one. So you got to take plenty of hooks with you. Right, and this one, as you've seen me using in the last video, I've got my spom, my method feeder mixes, the banjo press, which I lost the banjo, so I need to get a new one because I've got the press there. That's the big bait up spom. And I've also got the small spom if I'm in smaller water. That's a big bait up. These are what they call the international size ones. I think they're 100mm, they're not allowed any bigger. Alright, it's for deep water, it's not so deep water. They go in there like that. So they keep the space to a minimum. I won't zip them up again. There's some more pellets I had left over the other day, so I always keep them. Now in this one, as I've got 2 poles, I've got the pole cups for one pole and pole cups for the new pole. And there's actually an old-fashioned thing I see Johnny Arthur using a little while back. It's the feeder. Look, I can't remember what you call this now. So when you put your bait in there like that, and it sits there like that. Hang on, how does that work? Ah, the other way round. No, it isn't. That's the right way round. And you hook it on there. When you drop it on the bottom of the river or lake, wherever you're fishing, it drops your bait out. I think that's a drop feeder or something they call that. Lovely. I've used that several times actually. That's blooming good, that is. So that's kept safe in there. Now in this one, I have all sorts. There's all sorts in here. I've got pole cups, little feeder cups. I've got pole silicons. I've got bands. Pellet waggler attachments. I've got 3 of those. I'm going to give some of them to my mate Don. And I've got grip stops. I've got all sorts in there, and I've got even some spare shock leaders in there. I've got some bits and bobs in there. I've got swivels and all sorts in here. You've got to take it all with you, because if you mess up, you're in big trouble if you ain't took it with you. Right, now in the bottom here I've got 4 bait boxes, as you can see. One has got 8mm pellets, 6mm pellets. So I always put the empties in the bottom here, so you always take your lit home with you. And I've got sticky method pellets. I always put the sticker off the bags on here so you know exactly what's in your box. So I've got 2 of those, so if you're method feeder fishing you always want a little bit more, it's always there ready. Right, now this bit, the hard case, this is for my feeder rods. I'll show you what I've got in here. So when I go long distance, you want to take all you might need, because it's no good getting there and say, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. Right, this is a 4 rod holdall. As you can see in this side, it's my pellet waggler. That's the pellet waggler rod. Still got the hook on, it's still set up. You just take it out, set it up, and you're fishing. This is the feeder rod, which is the Horizon Pro Distance in this side with a 4,000 reel. The pellet waggler rod has got 3,000 reel on it. Now in this side, I've got the XC class feeder rod, which I'll use for bomb and pellet because it's still attached up. That's another one with another 4,000 reel. Now in this side, there's the extra tips for each rod is in there with them. This one is the Atkins D. There we are, look. Atkins Ultra D, I beg your pardon, 3.9 meters. That's for heavy duty stuff because that's 120 gram casting weight. That's so you can put the big bait up feeder on and feed a swim up. That goes in that side, all right? So that's my case with the 4 rods. And each buyer's got their own tips in, except for the pellet waggler rod, all right? So I always take that with me, even if I'm going pole fishing, because you never know, the weather could change and get rough. So you say, right, put the pole down because it's too hard to hold it, get a feeder rod out or a pellet waggler rod out, all right? And also in this bag I forgot to tell you about is a very important piece, the Polaroid sunglasses. So when you're feeding in the sun and it's glaring off the water, put those on. I got told off once about that, but I did have them in me and forgot to put them on. And just here I've got a massive buddleia and it's got all these on it. Try and film it so it don't scare it away. Lovely butterflies, get loads here. Oh my god, always one there, booty. And another. Zoom it in so you can see them nicely. Right, here's my new pole case I got to go with my new pole. As you can see in here, this is all the new pole, the MTX3 Ultra 2 Ultra, the 16 meter one, and in this side I've got my MTX1 Power. Right, that's all in this side, all the top kits. I just put a quick zip on there so when I turn it over it won't all fall out. And then in this side you can see I've got my 3 meter landing net handle, and that's the 13 meter, that's got all the pole tops inside of that. And then this is the 14 meter piece, and then the 16 meter piece. There's my Power 1 pole here and the 2 extensions that go along with the new 16 meter pole. Right, that all goes in there and that goes on top of the trolley. And now for my favourite part is the big bait bucket. Right, let's have a look in here. Well, as you can see in the top, it's got another catapult in here. It's got all my micros and some new baits that Fuka are getting me to try, those yellow ones. You know how good they are. They've had me some massive tench at Suffolk Water Park, Stonham Barnes. That's what I caught them on, those yellow baits. These ones, as you've seen. See? Phew. Perfect, that is. I've got for all the 5mm whites, and I've got some white discs which I use at Halesworth in a smaller lake for the smaller fish. They're the white discs. They work just as good as you've seen in my videos. I've got more wafters in there. Here's my fat boys for when I'm on all the different colours fat boys when I'm method feeder fishing. I always use a fat boy on method feeder. It works like anything as you've seen. I've got the micros, the 5mm yellows, all sorts in there. So I take that out, and there's my squeeze ready baits. That's all in there, the ground bait, sensates, more spare baits in there. There's fluoros in the bottom there. So that's all the gear I take when I go fishing. When it's on the trolley, I use ramps. The whole thing goes in one go in the van. All right, so I hope that helps. I can't remember who it was. Said, can you show me some of the gear you take in more detail? So there it is. That's the box set up there. And how I set the camera. The only thing I didn't get out was the landing net and my fishing gear. I can't in the garden really, and I hope this drone hasn't been too loud on the camera. So I hope that helps you all, show you what I take fishing. All right, so I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye bye for now.